Now we'll move on to conduct of business, please.
Item 6A, receive informational report on a revenue participation agreement with Walmart.com to facilitate economic development and additional sales taxes for the city of San Bruno.
Thank you. We're going to turn it over to our city manager, and then we'll probably hear from our city attorney. City manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let us pull up the slide and share it. Okay, perfect. So, good evening, Mayor, council members, and members of the public. Javon Grogan, City Manager. I'm here to present a informational report with regard to a potential revenue participation agreement with Walmart.com that staff has been negotiating. I'll be joined tonight by our city attorney, Mark Zaffarano, who has been our lead negotiator in this process. Our plan is to return to the city council on October 27th for action. And again, tonight is really just an informational presentation to let everybody know where we are and what the status is. Really from the outset, I want to say that what you're going to hear tonight and what the staff report talks about, at its core is really three things. The first thing is that we are working to achieve two of our core economic development goals, and that's both business retention and business expansion. Second, we are working on our fiscal sustainability goal, and that is to do everything we can to bring back fiscal sustainability to our city budget and increase the resources that we have here to provide quality services to the residents. And the third thing that this potential agreement really encompasses is ensuring that the San Bruno community directly benefits from job expansion, commerce, and growth of our local economy. And so the items that we'll talk about today is we'll give a brief background of Walmart.com. We'll talk a little bit about sales tax. And then I will turn it over to our city attorney to talk about the proposed features of the agreement, and then we'll discuss next steps. So background on Walmart.com. As we know, Walmart.com is headquartered here in the city of San Bruno and has been headquartered here since 2012 when Walmart.com moved to the city of San Bruno. They acquired the property at 850 Cherry Avenue in 2014 for a transaction price of $121 million. It is a facility that is over 271 square feet of office space. Walmart Corporation also owns the Sam's Club e-commerce at 959 through 999 Elm Avenue. Walmart.com is one of the city's largest employers. In fact, they're one of our two largest employers. Every year we publish our CAFR and have a list of our largest employers in there. And on top is YouTube and Walmart.com, both having approximately 2,000 employees here in the city of San Bruno. Walmart.com is currently involved in major tenant improvements to improve and expand the space that they have for their employees at their 850 Cherry Avenue property. And as we all know, Walmart.com is a platform that sells merchandise throughout the country. And what we're talking about today is a sales tax sharing agreement that will involve transactions in California. And through these discussions, we are seeking to designate the city of San Bruno as a point of sale for all online transactions that occur within the state of California. So if someone buys a toaster in Fresno or a microwave in Visalia, that transaction will actually occur on the equipment and the resources that are located here in the city of San Bruno. Thus, we will be what's called the situs of the sale and receive that sales tax. so a little bit about sales tax. When we talk about sales tax, we're actually talking about the 1% local government allocation that is a part of the statewide sales tax. So I think most of the people in the public know that the total sales tax that you pay if you go to the mall and buy a t-shirt is 9.75%. Well, a part of that 9.75% is actually what's called a base statewide sales tax, and that is 7.25%. Of that 7.25%, the city of San Bruno receives 1%. And so what we're talking about is the 1% sales value from the Walmart.com transactions. And what you'll see in a little bit, the total amount of those transactions in that 1% sales tax value is $6.2 million. So sales tax here in San Bruno, the 1%, it represents our second largest general fund revenue source, second only to property tax on secured property in and around the city, and that is both residential and commercial property. It represents 13% of our general fund. The council may remember that when we adopted the current fiscal year 2021 budget, total sales tax for the city of San Bruno is projected to be this fiscal year $6.5 million. It's also worth noting that the pre-COVID-19 sales tax figure in the prior year was $7.9 million. And so the council and the public will remember, due to COVID-19, we did project a $1.4 million drop this year, or an 18% drop in our sales tax. And so with this agreement, we are developing a revenue split to share a 1% sales tax for all the Walmart.com transactions. And what Mark will go through is that total amount is $6.2 million. And the share that we're looking to have come to the city of San Bruno is $3.62 million. And it's important to note that if we take that against what we are projected to receive this year for all of our 1% sales tax, it's 55% of that base number. So it is a significant amount of additional revenue that would come to the city of San Bruno's general fund to provide services to the community. And I'll now turn it over to Mark Zaffarano to talk a little bit about the mechanisms and the court decisions that are allowing this to take place.
Thank you very much. So, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, just a brief recap of the information that we received from Walmart.com about why they were interested in designating the city of San Bruno as the center of their online platform and their point of sale for sales tax. It really arises out of at least two things that you'll see on the screen. One of them is a 2018 U.S. Supreme Court decision in the South Dakota versus Wayfair case that talks about online platforms having to remit sales tax even if they don't have a physical presence in the state. And then also in 2019, something called the Marketplace Facilitator Act in California, where those platforms have to remit tax on sales by remote sellers. So what that means is that some online platforms like Amazon or like Walmart.com sell goods and merchandise that are being sold to them by others. So it's a complicated system, but the result of all of this was that Walmart.com told us that they saw an opportunity to reevaluate their operations throughout California and their e-commerce sales, and an opportunity arose for them to contact us and request our participation in this potential agreement. And I would love my slide to advance, but it doesn't seem to want to do that. Okay, so as background, the city did review over a dozen other similar arrangements throughout California, and those are with a variety of cities up and down the state. Ontario, Cupertino, Fresno, San Jose is just some of the examples. There are also some smaller cities. And we looked at all of those agreements, and this was, with, of course, the city managers work on these, as well as the finance director, Keith DeMartini, as well as our outside counsel. And those agreements are with well-known retailers, QVC, Staples, various car dealers, eBay, Best Buy, and most recently Nike. And so when we looked at those agreements to try to figure out what would be a reasonable agreement for the city, the terms averaged about 19 years, median of 15 years. There's one with an outlier with a very long term of 41 years. But the average is between 15 and 19. And then the average city revenue sharing in those agreements, when you work out the math, is about 50%. And that can vary by a little bit up and down. Sometimes there's more upfront, sometimes less upfront. Anyway, there's various formulas, but when you average it all out, it's about 50-50 between the city and the retailer. So moving to the next slide, thank you, Javon. Just want to talk about a couple of features of the agreement. So Walmart.com would, in this agreement, agree to shift their sales tax transactions, their point of sale, to the city of San Bruno. So it's that 1% local tax that the city manager talked about. It's about $6.2 million. And the agreement that we're in the process of negotiating is that the city would receive overall about 58% of that $6.2 million. And I'll show you a slide in the next slide sort of to break that down. And this agreement does have a 25-year term. So if there's no change to the amount of sales tax over that 25 years, and assuming that Walmart stays in the city, it ends up being about $90 million just based on the $6.2 million. It's important to note that that does not affect the Measure G sales tax, which the San Bruno voters adopted. Those funds already come to the city and are not affected by this agreement. Thank you. So here's the table that shows the basic features of the agreement. You'll see the top line shows about $6.2 million to be distributed. Could be a little more, could be a little less. It's hard to know. It's reported quarterly, but that's everybody's best estimate. And the structure of the proposed agreement would be that the city would receive 65% of the first $3.5 million. So you see the breakdown there. The city would get 2.275, Walmart 1.225. So the reason why it was structured that way for the city is so that way the city has a little bit of a guarantee that it will receive some substantial revenue of that first tranche of $3.5 million. And then of the remaining amount above 3.5 million, whatever it happens to be, the city and Walmart share equally, so 50-50. And so it's 1.35 million, both for the city and Walmart. And then the very last section of the slide shows that, if you do all the math, the percent to city is approximately 58%. So of that 6.2 million, city gets 3.625, Walmart gets 2.575. And then obviously it would change in the future if the tax goes up or down. All right, so we have a couple of next steps for you. There's going to be, or will be required to have a public hearing on this thing called an economic development subsidy report, which is required by state law. So that's going to come to you at the next meeting. And you'll be asked to review that and adopt a resolution approving that report. And staff is currently working on that report right now. And then the second resolution you'll be asked to review and adopt would be authorizing the city manager to enter into a participation agreement. We have a draft of that agreement. It's currently being exchanged and worked on, and it's not been finalized. So, we anticipate that by the next meeting, that will be completed, and the city council will be in a position to authorize the city manager to enter into that agreement. That concludes my presentation, and Javon and I are happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council? Seeing no hands. Okay. All right, and then I do see one. As we know, this will come back October 27th for more formal public hearing and et cetera. Okay, so Councilmember Mason.
Oh, Councilmember Davis was first. Go ahead.
I've got you first.
Okay.
First on the line.
Great, thank you. So I just wanted to ask if, understanding that anything could go down, all accounts appear to show that Walmart's Amazon's #1 competitor right now, and Amazon's at the top of their game. So my question is it possible that this amount can actually be higher than what's being estimated?
over the next however many years are projected?
Sure. Council Member Mason, that is quite possible. The estimate is based off of the current 1% sales tax value of 6.2% divided as shown. And so what has been reported in a number of national business journals is Walmart's desire to invest in Walmart.com and yes, improve their market share. So should that increase in California, we expect the sales tax to increase and thus that number that we share to increase.
Okay, great. And then I just want to, I try not to get excited until there's a signed document, but I do want to just commend Javon and Mark, because I know this was an opportunity that came to us, but the negotiation based on the numbers you're giving us was definitely better than some of the other cities that have negotiated similar contracts. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Councilmember Davis.
Sorry, and I was having, I think my mouse battery was dying, so I was trying to click it, and I didn't know if it was clicking. Anyway, yeah, I mean, this is, you know, this is like the calm. There's a calming before the storm, and we've been going through the storm, and we're in it, and I finally feel like there's like this light at the end of the tunnel that I know good things are coming our way. And it's for the due diligence of our city attorney, our city manager, for working on this for several months. And I know that this is something that has taken a lot of your time. You know, looking at the numbers in the presentation tonight, again, where, you know, the deal that you were able to work and negotiate with Walmart is better than the average by far. I mean, even getting a 25-year term is kudos to the team. So thank you so much, everybody, for this. You know, it's important that people understand this, that, you know, sales tax revenues have been plateauing and due to COVID been going down, but this is really a needed and well-deserved boost for San Bruno. So thank you so much.
Vice Mayor Salazar.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to add my thanks to our staff for working on this. I know these types of negotiations aren't easy. We've gone through them before, and I know Mark has put in a lot of hours on this. He's done it on previous occasions, and he's always helped us negotiate a very favorable deal in both cases. So just wanted to say hats off to the team. I really appreciate you guys putting the work on this. It's definitely some good and much needed good news at a time when, you know, we're planning our recovery, and this will definitely help. So great job.
Councilmember Medina.
Yes, I'd like to echo the thank yous. San Bruno deserves some good news, you know, and we'll come back here in 2 weeks and get this done and keep our fingers crossed. So thank you, staff.
And I'll add my thanks. But yes, it is, you know, it is thanks to Keith and Mark and Javon. It takes time, it takes negotiations, and it doesn't just happen in a day or two. But I also want to thank Mark, because you were in prior negotiations with Walmart.com when it came to the business license. As you know, when they moved from Brisbane, it was like $35, $50. And what was negotiated some time ago back then was one step. And this is another step. So a question was asked about our business partners or in the community, and this is a step in which to assist the city, us continuing to move forward. So thank you to staff, and we look forward to the public hearing on the 27th.